After being abandoned and held captive in a so-called hospital, a group of young mutants must use their powers to escape the place and find a new home. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, The New Mutants, from 2020. On an Indian reservation in the United States, a girl called Dani wakes up to the sound of explosions. Immediately afterwards, her desperate father enters the room and pulls the girl out of the house. When they leave, they find the entire reserve destroyed, with cars and houses set on fire and the inhabitants running for their lives. Meanwhile, father and daughter search for a safe place and arrive in a forest on the outskirts. There, the man leaves his daughter sheltered in a tree and runs to help the other villagers. However, minutes later, his body is thrown lifeless in front of the girl, who panics and runs away. She hears a strange noise coming towards her and runs as far as she can, but she falls down a hill and loses consciousness. Hours later, Dani wakes up in a hospital bed and realizes that her hand is caught in a handcuff. The girl tries to get free, but just then a doctor appears on the other side of the door. The woman introduces herself as Dr. Reyes and tells the girl that she is the only survivor of a tornado that destroyed her home. She goes on to say that Dani managed to save herself thanks to her mutant gene, but that her powers are still unknown. Hours later, the doctor takes the girl back to her room and tells her that she will remain in hospital under observation until they find out what her mutation is and how to control it. The next day, Dani enters a room where other young mutants are meeting with Dr. Reyes. The woman asks them to tell her about their powers, and the first to speak is Rani, a girl who can transform into a wolf. At this point, one of the mutants, Ileana, gets tired of the conversation and wants to leave, but the doctor asks her to introduce Dani to the hospital. Even though she doesn't want to, she obeys. Outside, Ileana tells the newcomer that the hospital has no walls and that anyone can leave whenever they want. Dani believes her and tries to escape, but suddenly she bumps into an invisible dome. Seeing what has happened, the mutant mocks the girl and warns her that this place is not a hospital, but a prison. Annoyed by the joke, Dani tries to attack her, but Ileana escapes by opening a portal that takes her away. Later, Dani goes to the hospital clock tower and climbs to the edge. Saddened by everything that has happened, she thinks about jumping, but before it's too late, Rani appears and convinces her not to. After that, the two become friends and go to explore the hospital. When they reach a court, they meet another mutant, Sam, who has the power to fly at sonic speed. Later, over dinner, they meet Betto, a mutant from Brazil, but no one knows what his powers are or why he is there. At the end of the day, the friends say goodbye and Dani goes to sleep, but in her dreams she remembers the night she lost her father. At the same time, Dr. Reyes observes the girl through the camera and the readers indicate a strong emission of energy coming from her body. Meanwhile, Sam is talking to Betto in the laundry room, until a strange tremor causes the lights to go out and one of the machines to shake. Sam goes to check what happened, but as he does so, his mind is transported to a memory from his past. He finds himself in a mine and there he finds his father with a wound on his face. This confuses him and everything gets worse when one of the miners suddenly tries to attack him with a pickaxe. Sam tries to defend himself and uses his power to escape, but the energy emission causes him to be thrown against the wall and he returns to the real world. The next day, the young mutants continue their routine at the hospital, until they go to rest in a recreation room. Dani arrives last and Ileana bothers her again with questions about her not having awakened her powers yet. The girl is not intimidated by the provocation and pulls the puppet from Ileana's arm. This infuriates her and she pushes the girl towards the table, but Dani strikes back with a headbutt. The mutant is even more annoyed by this and unleashes her power, creating a metallic arm with a cosmic energy sword. She tries to attack Dani, but then Dr. Reyes appears and creates a force field to protect her. After the fight, the two are forced to spend the night in solitary confinement. When Dani finally falls asleep, her psychic energy manifests again and she has another nightmare. In it, the girl recalls her escape in the forest, but this time, drops of blood begin to fall from the sky. Looking up, Dani sees a strange entity forming in the clouds in the shape of a gigantic bear, which tries to attack her. This macabre nightmare causes the girl to wake up screaming. Dr. Reyes then rushes to see what happened and finds Dani frightened and with her arms covered in blood. The next day, the doctor tries to calm her down while she takes samples of her blood to analyze in the laboratory. Meanwhile, Rani goes to the chapel to go to confession, but suddenly a voice is heard in the confessional and the doors start slamming on their own, which sends the girl into a panic. Later, Dani goes to find Rani in her room, but she is still upset about what happened in the chapel. As the two talk, the other mutants appear and invite them up to the attic. There, they play truth or dare using a lie detector. Each one reveals a little about their past and when it's Dani's turn, Ileana asks what her power is, but the girl doesn't know. She then asks why Donnie is wearing a bear necklace, and the girl says that it was a gift from her father to protect her from the mystical bear, which, according to legend, sucks the fear out of people. The group continues with the game during the night, but they don't realize that they are being watched by Dr. Reyes. The next morning, the woman calls everyone together for another meeting. She says that the young mutants need to dedicate themselves to treatment so that they can be transferred to another location, which is coordinated by her supervisor. However, Sam gets angry at the idea of being stuck in that place any longer and leaves the room. Because of this, when night falls, Ileana takes revenge on the doctor and puts a sleeping pill in her tea. The group then takes the opportunity to have fun while the woman sleeps in her living room. While they're talking, Donnie asks the group who this supervisor is that the doctor mentioned. Betto then replies that he must be Professor Xavier, leader of the group of mutants called the X-Men. Hours later, Rani takes Donnie to a secret exit. From there, they go to a cemetery and see the rain falling above the dome, which creates a beautiful landscape. Meanwhile, Betto looks at the photos of his old girlfriend on his cell phone, until he hears a beautiful voice singing. He goes to find out where the sound is coming from and finds Ileana in the pool. The two enjoy the moment together, but Betto's body begins to heat up quickly. He confesses to Ileana that one day, he tried to hug his ex-girlfriend, but his powers manifested and he accidentally burned her alive. The mutant tells him not to worry about it and that they should continue having fun. However, soon after, she disappears from the scene, which leaves Betto confused. Suddenly, a charred hand emerges from the water. The mutant thinks it's Ileana, but when he turns around, he finds his ex-girlfriend in the form of a ghost covered in flames. Moments later, the hospital alarm is triggered, which wakes up Dr. Reyes. Far away, Donnie and Rani hear the noise and go to see what has happened. When everyone arrives at the pool area, they find Betto with his body covered in fire. Seeing this, the doctor wastes no time and pushes him into the pool, which brings him back to normal. After the situation is under control, Ileana shows up without knowing anything, which only makes Betto even more confused. He tries to explain what happened, but the doctor tells him that all this time he was alone in the pool. Afraid he's crazy, Betto takes Dr. Reyes' cell phone and tries to call the police, with the intention of telling them everything that's happening at the hospital. Ileana supports him and confronts the doctor, but she sends her back to solitary confinement as punishment for putting the sleeping pill in her drink. The next morning, Dr. Reyes begins a new experiment with Donnie to find out what her power is. To do this, she injects her with a substance so that she can remember what happened on the day of the tornado. Donnie once again accesses her memories of that day, until she suddenly sees a mysterious laboratory carrying out horrific experiments on young mutants. While these visions pass through her mind, other strange events begin to occur in the hospital. In solitary confinement, the door to Ileana's room opens, but when she tries to leave, she finds a macabre drawing on the wall. At the same time, Rani is bathing in the bathroom and notices that someone is approaching. A bishop with a deformed face appears before her, whom the girl seems to know. She panics and tries to turn into a wolf, but the man steps on her hand and burns her with a hot iron. Rani screams in pain and everyone rushes to help her. However, when the doctor opens the bathroom door, the girl appears transformed into a wolf and tries to escape, but the exit is blocked and she reverts to her human form. Afterwards, her friends go to help her and find a mark made with a hot iron on her neck, similar to the one she has on her back. Soon afterwards, Ileana appears on the scene and says that Donnie is responsible for everything that has happened. She accuses the girl of creating these disturbing visions and that she will end up taking everyone's life. Donnie tries to defend herself against the accusations, but Ileana activates her mechanical arm and takes the girl to another dimension, called Limbo. There, the mutant tries to squeeze Danny's neck, but a strange mask appears on her face, causing Ileana to panic. This sends them both back to the hospital, and at that very moment, the doctor seizes the chance and injects the mutant with a sedative, and she loses consciousness. Hours later, Donnie goes to Ileana's room to apologize for what happened and returns her puppet. She is surprised by the gesture and tells her story to her, who created the limbo as a way of escaping her tragic past. Later, Dr. Reyes is in front of her computer waiting for an answer from her supervisor about what happened at the hospital. She receives a message informing her that, after analyzing the samples taken from Donnie, the girl is extremely dangerous and must be eliminated. The computer then asks for a confirmation code from the doctor, who enters the command and is then shown on the screen that the orders come from a secret corporation called Essex. Hours later, Donnie goes to visit Rani to see how she is. However, before they can talk any further, the doctor shows up and calls the girl in for another experiment. Afterwards, Rani goes back to the room where her friends are, but becomes suspicious of the doctor's attitude. Suddenly, music starts playing from the corridor and they go to see what it is. As they pass through the corridor, Ileana realizes that the sound is coming from her bedroom, which is suddenly covered in a strange black substance. The girl opens the door and sees a memory of herself from when she was a child. The memory shows a young Ileana in her bed, next to her puppet. Just then, a tall, slender man appears to pick her up, but the girl teleports into limbo, which makes him furious. Seeing all this, the real Ileana screams in despair and the guy turns his face away. The creature then sets out to attack the mutant, but Sam protects her and the two flee. Meanwhile, Rani goes to ask Dr. Reyes for help, but when she gets to the room where she and Donnie were, she doesn't find the two of them. The girl realizes that something is wrong and turns into a wolf to save her friend, unaware that on the other side of the room, the doctor is preparing to carry out the order to eliminate Donnie. Meanwhile, Ileana and Sam run through the hospital corridors, but are surrounded by 3 more monsters who appear to attack them. Nearby, Betto hears music in the kitchen and doesn't notice when one of the monsters approaches and tries to grab him. Luckily, when he realizes the threat, the mutant acts quickly and fires flame projectiles with his hands. As they face the monsters, Dr. Reyes prepares to give Donnie a lethal injection. However, Rani appears in the air duct above her and attacks her with her claws. The doctor is seriously injured, but in an act of desperation, she manages to take a scalpel and sticks it in the mutant's leg, giving her time to escape. Despite this blow, Rani manages to recover and saves Donnie before it's too late. Meanwhile, Sam and Ileana continue to escape through the hospital, but are once again trapped in a corridor full of monsters. At that moment, Dr. Reyes appears and they ask for help, but when she sees the creatures, she runs away. Sam then asks her friend to use her powers to stop them, but out of fear, she teleports into limbo. Left with no choice, Sam energizes his body to the max and flies at sonic speed towards the creatures, leaving them all in pieces. Afterwards, he encounters Betto, who tries to escape through the door, but they are all blocked by the force field. The two then try to find another way out, but as they enter a room, more creatures appear to attack them. Suddenly, a portal opens in the middle of the stairs and out of it emerges Ileana, who activates her sword and cuts down the monsters one by one. Afterwards, the group gathers in the doctor's room and finds her files. When they read them, they discover that the place was not designed to treat mutants, but to train them as real destruction machines. When they discover the truth, they all agree to escape, but the only way is to get the doctor and end the force field that is keeping them trapped there. The quintet searches for her and thanks to Rani's keen nose, they find her. However, even though she is wounded, the doctor is willing to carry out her plan and traps everyone in force fields. She also reveals that Danny's power is to turn people's greatest fears into real experiences, to the point where they are eliminated. Because of this, the doctor tries to eliminate the girl by removing the oxygen from her force field. Just then, however, a strong tremor begins to shake the hospital. The doctor goes to see what's going on and suddenly a gigantic bear bursts through the wall, grabs her with its mouth and swallows the woman. Thanks to this, the force fields disintegrate and the mutants are freed. However, Donnie is unconscious and her mind is trapped in one of her memories. Rani tries to help her and realizes that the giant bear was accidentally created by her, being the materialization of her own fear. Ileana then tells the group to protect Donnie while she faces the monster. The mutant then activates her sword once again and teleports out of the hospital. There, she and her puppet Lockheed, now transformed by her magic into a dragon, stand before the bear. The entity charges at them, but Ileana makes a long leap and attacks it from above with her sword. At the same time, Lockheed attracts the monster's attention and fires bursts of fire into its face. However, not even their combined attack damages the creature, which tries to counterattack. While the fight is going on, the rest of the group runs towards the chapel to leave Donnie in a safe place. However, on hearing Ileana's screams, Sam decides to help her. As they enter the chapel, Rani hides Donnie in the confessional and tries to get her to wake up. However, the bear invades the place and starts destroying everything around it. Just then, Sam flies at top speed to attack the monster and manages to tear out one of its fangs. Soon after, Ileana and Lockheed return to the battlefield and attack the monster, but their blows have no effect. The bear then strikes the mutant, who is thrown away, but she manages to activate the portal and falls to safety. Meanwhile, Betto hides during the fight, for fear of activating his powers and hurting his friends. However, when he sees the monster about to attack them, he stands in front of it and unleashes flames all over his body. The bear throws pieces of the chapel at him, but Betto manages to protect himself and uses one of them to counterattack. The fight intensifies and Rani desperately tries to rouse Donnie, but she is still unconscious. Donnie then reaches the same tree where her father left her and hears her friend's voice asking her to come back. However, the girl can't get out. Meanwhile, Betto continues to fight the bear, but it smashes him to the ground and knocks him unconscious. Rani then decides to help him and jumps up to the monster's face and attacks it with her claws. Unfortunately, despite her best efforts, the girl is thrown over the chapel ledge and begins to fall. At the same time, Danny's sleeping body is almost trampled by the monster, but Sam appears and saves her at the last minute. Then, in Danny's mind, the image of her father appears. He tells his daughter that she must be stronger than her fear and must go back to help her friends. Donnie then wakes up just as the monster is about to attack Rani and orders it to stop. The bear tries to resist, but the girl slowly approaches him and tries to calm him down. When the creature finally stops attacking, Donnie hands over her bear necklace and tells the entity to go away, proving that she is no longer afraid. Finally, the monster crumbles and the whole nightmare comes to an end. The next morning, the group meets in the middle of the hospital, which has been completely destroyed. Donnie thanks everyone for helping her, but Rani says that it was she who saved them from that place. Now that Dr. Reyes has been eliminated, Sam throws a rock into the sky and realizes that the invisible dome no longer exists. The young mutants are finally free of that prison and decide to search for the nearest city. The group walks towards the exit, united after a traumatic experience, but with the certainty that they are now free to choose their own destinies. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.